Vitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayham Dadati Swapadantikam. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Welcome everyone. Today we will be exploring very specific quality. Oh, there was no. Oh. We will be exploring a very specific, special quality today, which is very intrinsic to the nature of devotees. This is the quality of dedication. And we have just heard this beautiful stanza from the Shat Goswami Astakam. Srila Prabhupada says, because of their compassion for the poor fallen souls, the 6 Goswamis gave up their exalted positions as ministers and took vows as mendicants. Thus, minimizing their bodily wants as far as possible, they each accepted only a loincloth and a begging bowl. Thus, they remained in Vrindavan to execute the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by compiling and publishing various Vaishnava literatures. So this is the example that we are following. We are followers of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. What did they do? They gave up their positions in the material world, which happened to be very high positions. They gave up their positions in the material world and they dedicated themselves, the rest of their life, to the service of Lord Chaitanya. And for this, they, here it says they became mendicants, from ministers to mendicants. Why did they become mendicants? Simply because they gave up all personal concerns and they minimize all material engagement so that they could spend the maximum time in the service of Lord Chaitanya. So they are our guides, they are our masters, they are our leaders in Krishna consciousness. So this sense of this dedication for us means dedication to the Lord, to the service of the Lord, to the service of the spiritual master. What is dedication? It indicates itself in the word itself, a sense of giving, which is obviously the opposite of the sense of taking, right? Chaturvidha bhajante mam, Krishna says. 4 kinds of people come to me, worship me, and out of these kinds, most of them, they are not worshiping with a sense of giving. They are worshiping with a sense of taking. They come because they are in need, or they come because they have so many desires to fulfill. So dedication is something else. Dedication indicates a sense of giving. giving to another person, giving to a cause, giving to the Lord. Ultimately, Srila Prabhupada explains that dedication achieves its perfection when we find the supreme object of dedication, which is Krishna. Giving means, of course, dedication is associated with the idea of sacrifice. We are sacrificing. Srila Prabhupada said the word sacrifice suggests dedication of one's own interests for the satisfaction of a second person. So, denying one's own self in order to give one's life's energy to another. Of course, we know people in the material world do that because this dedication, which is very much part of the spirit of service, it is very natural. It is very, very, very natural. It is part of the nature of the soul, which is, yesterday we were saying, Ashritaha, Ashritaha. The soul is sheltered in the Lord, which indicates we are dependent. And our happiness is actually in that position of dedication. When we become selfish, we experience all the miseries of this world. As soon as we try to work for our own selves, we accumulate the benefit of becoming the recipient of all the reactions of our work. And there is no satisfaction in trying to satisfy the self. Trying to satisfy oneself and to dedicate all one's activities to one's own self is something which is practiced by people who are very much covered by ignorance, practically of demoniac nature, for self-centered, who think about themselves only. Those who are more enlightened, who have been touched by at least the mode of goodness, dedicate themselves to the service of others, to the service of a greater cause than their own self. And in that dedication, they find the happiness of their life. Srila Prabhupada has pointed out always that people are always dedicated in the sense of they're always serving. A man serves his family, Srila Prabhupada says. He serves the community. He serves the nation. So that dedication is, there is a drive in us to actually give. When we are, as I said, a little bit enlightened and in goodness, it is definitely, dedication is part of the divine nature. So it carries a sense of sacrifice. It carries a sense of commitment. When we are dedicated to someone, to something, we are committed. There is a sense of loyalty. We stick to the object of our dedication. A sense of duty is also involved. But the topmost dedication, naturally, is motivated by love. Srila Prabhupada gives the example of a mother who serves her children or her child. in a way that is very thankless. She serves the child day after day in all circumstances. And whatever way the child may reciprocate with her, she doesn't give up that dedication to the service to the child. Why? Because there is a sense of oneness between the mother and the child. And there is a deep affection. There is a deep love which is born from that oneness. But this is mundane. However, Srila Prabhupada says this is the closest we can observe in this world to what it means to actually be a lover of God. So the type of dedication that we are talking about is, of course, the dedication to that higher object. And that's why we are studying, to realize deeper and deeper and deeper our oneness with the Lord, our oneness with Krishna. In what way are we one? This is what the Shastras will make us understand. And the more we understand our connection with the Supreme Lord, our dependence on the Supreme Lord, the fact that we are never separated from Him. This separation can never happen. Just as the sun rays are part of the sun and can never be cut from the sun, the more we understand that eternal connection, that not only eternal, but continuous, ongoing at every second, the more we understand Krishna as our well-wisher, the very source of our existence, then the bond will strengthen, just as there is this unbreakable, almost unbreakable bond between a mother and child, because they have something in common. They are connected. So when we realize that connection with Krishna, then the deeper is our understanding and realization of our connection with Krishna, the more the affection will awaken, and the more the dedication to Krishna's service will come. So in our case, dedication means dedication to, when we say we dedicate ourselves to Krishna, there are two main things to be considered. One is the sadhana, which is meant to attain Krishna. So if we are really dedicated to Krishna, then we have to be dedicated to the means to attain it, to attain Him. So dedication to sadhana is there, and along with the sadhana, dedication to active service. As we said, this is very much the core of the Bhakti Marg, this idea of samarpan, Atma Samarpan. At the time of initiation, we dedicate our life to searching for Krishna, to serving Krishna, Atma Samarpan. And our goal is Atmanivedanam. What is Atmanivedanam? Srila Prabhupada explained this means when we become completely, fully dedicated to Krishna without any desire for receiving anything in return. Why not receive anything in return? Because we already have received. We already are received. Everything we are is by His mercy. What more do we want? So Krishna has, Srila Prabhupada many times quoting this verse, Praner arte dhiya vacha shreya acharanam sada. There are different ways, different levels of dedication to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says, either with your life, either with your money, either with your intelligence, either with your words, you can serve Krishna. The first thing Srila Prabhupada says is that you dedicate your life. That is very good. That is first class. That is pranaihi, to serve Krishna with one's life. There are different translations or understanding of Atmani-vedana. And people study, because we know the Atma has different meanings. One meaning of the Atma is the soul, but the Atman is also the Atma, or the self. Is also the body, is also the mind. So when we dedicate ourselves to the Lord, it means our entire body is used in the service of the Lord. And the soul is offered in service to the Lord. This is the Atmani-vedana, to give oneself. Give oneself. And oneself means that the soul itself, the myself, the person, I belong to Krishna. Not just written on the t-shirt, but there is a strong sense of belonging. I belong to Krishna. And therefore, I belong. I do not have any self, myself in one sense. I belong to Krishna. Therefore, all my activities, they are for his benefit. So Prabhupada said, this is the best. This is first class. And this is the goal. This is the goal of our existence, to someday, either in this life or the next, we shall reach to that point. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam Atmani-vedanam. The order in which these various processes for the attainment of Krishna is placed has some significance, and it goes from beginning to ultimate. We begin with Shravanam, we hear about Krishna, and then we engage in the various processes, Kirtanam, Smaranam. At the same time, we are actively serving Krishna through deity worship, through many other processes of Padasevanam. And then gradually we come closer to Krishna in Dasyam. We actually transform and lose the controlling nature. And then as it increases further, we become a well-wisher of the Lord. We become free from envy. We become a well-wisher of the Lord, meaning a friend of the Lord, always trying to fulfill his desires. And lastly, Atmani-vedana. We belong to him. We give ourselves to him. So this is very beautiful. Prana means the life airs, but it also indicates that we are completely dedicated to the Lord. And there is nothing else that matters. Then Prabhupada said, if you think you have, if you cannot dedicate your life, and Srila Prabhupada adds, immediately. Meaning that the goal is that total dedication. This is what will take us back to Godhead. This is what will take us back to Godhead, when you actually give ourselves to Krishna. So Prabhupada said, if you cannot dedicate yourself immediately, then praner arther, no, yes, praner arther. Then spend 50% of your income for Krishna. Praner arte. So artha means that which is valuable for somebody who doesn't understand what's really valuable. So what is very valuable to all people is their money. The money, they call it. Very valuable, very dear, dearer than life sometimes. So that hard-earned money, the result of one's material work, the result of one's sweat, that one should give away to Krishna. One should serve by giving one's money. And if you think you have no money, so that doesn't mean that you are rich and you don't give it. The order is that if you have it, you should give it. But if you don't have it, some people just don't have the money. So then, praner arte dhiya, by your intelligence. If you have got some knowledge, write some books and spread Krishna consciousness. So one should engage one's abilities, one's capacities, one's abilities in the service of Krishna. And if here it says dhiya, means it represents the intelligence. One should serve in one way or the other. Engage one's intelligence in helping the propagation of Krishna consciousness. And if you have no education, no money, and you cannot dedicate your life, then you can spend your vacha, prane, arthe, diya, vacha. What is the vacha? Chant Hare Krishna and tell everyone, please chant Hare Krishna. So here there is a different levels of dedication. The first level is you just chant. You take up the process and you just chant Hare Krishna. It's both for your own good and it is also, it's part of service to Krishna. So it is for his pleasure. But there is not much that one is doing for others. There is some part because by chanting Hare Krishna as a group all over the world, we influence the situation of the world. But one just chants. And little higher than that, you start thinking what to do for Krishna, how to engage. And you study and you can speak about Krishna. But again, it's not that practical. Next thing is you start giving, really giving something you're attached to, and that's the money. So you start giving the money. And that will bring detachment. Because the reason why we are not dedicating is because we are attached. So we cannot give. We have to keep. And why are we attached? This is due to our conditioning, but also to the fact that we feel insecure. Our faith is not very strong. What if I give everything to Krishna? What will happen to me? What does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? Ma shuchaha. That's what he says. Why you're worrying? You don't have to worry. I will take care. I will take care of you as you surrender unto me. I reward you accordingly. Ma shuchaha. We should write it everywhere, all over. Ma shuchaha. Don't worry. Everything will be okay. So these are different grades of surrender. It is part of surrender. Pranipat, Srila Prabhupada also says, dedication is pranipat. We offer ourselves. So this is our goal, to actually be just 100%, 24 hours a day, engaged in Krishna service. And this is the goal, and we need to build a gradual progress towards that goal. Which means, I said, this dedication in general implies that we focus more and more and more and more on the object of our dedication. We focus on the Lord, we focus, as we said, on the sadhana and on the service. The sadhana is also service, but it is a process of purification, and it involves our own, it involves us. The sadhana is meant to purify us, to elevate us, to qualify us as servants of Krishna. So we derive a direct personal benefit by dedicating ourselves to the sadhana. And then when we take up actual active service, we go out of the personal boundary and we actually start flowing out and giving our energy. So this is more advanced, but the two should go together, because the sadhana, the work that we do for Krishna has to be spiritual work. And it will be spiritual work if our consciousness is spiritual. The sadhana produces the seva bhava. And the dedication to Krishna is made of this seva bhava. And if the sadhana is not there, then Prabhupada said very soon, the service will become a burden. We will start comparing. Oh, this one is busy 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day across the street from the temple. And at the end of the month, oh, he gets 50,000 rupees in his bank account. And here I am in the Hare Krishna temple, working more than 12 hours a day, 24 hours practically. And at the end of the month, I get nothing. This is the comparison which will come in the mind of one who is not dedicated to the sadhana, because the spiritual consciousness will not be there. So that dedication has to be done with understanding. It has to be done with a spiritual energy, which is generated by our chanting of the holy name, by our study of the Shastra. When we study, when we hear the holy name, then we get charged up spiritually. And then will come the enthusiasm for service and the dedication. So focus has to be there. Allocation of time. Dedication also means that we work on our priorities. We minimize time spent on our own self, and we maximize time spent for Krishna. So there has to be a deliberate choice and allocation of the time, allocation of the energy. Some prioritizing has to take place so that we are free to serve. And we see that this is something which has to be very practically worked out. how to gradually increase our service time. Because there is a tendency when we are sitting in the material world that there will be so many occupations which are going to pull us into the net of material activities. We will be pulled in different directions. So we have to learn how to withdraw ourselves, not to accept the invitations of Maya. Maya will invite us in so many ways. And sometimes in the name of something very good, like duty, duty to all kinds of figures in this world. But ultimately, we understand that our dedication attains its perfection when its object is Krishna. And the materialists may call us a bit irresponsible sometimes. Prabhupada was asking, who's crazy? Right? Who is crazy? The materialists think we are crazy because we don't care for anything when we serve Krishna. And the spiritualists who are serving Krishna, they think that those people out there, they are crazy because they are completely denying their real life, their real existence. They are denying their spiritual identity, and they are denying their real well-wisher. The real well-wisher is the Lord. Everyone else who maintains us in this world or helps us in this world is only his instrument. That is the vision of a devotee. And therefore, we dedicate ourselves for the service of the Lord. And that dedication, yes, it is based on faith. We have trust in Krishna. We trust that he is there. We trust that he will support us. And therefore, we are free. So the entire effort of our sadhana study is to build that faith that Krishna is there, that Krishna will protect us, that Krishna will maintain us. When that faith becomes strong enough, or as it grows, then we can do Atma Samarpana. We can dedicate ourselves. There is no need to be busy in this world, no more, no longer. Because we are busy in this world because we think that we need to work. We need to work. Yesterday we were hearing in the class in the Bhakti-vaibhava that the Bhagavatam is going to stop material work. As we carry on reading the Bhagavatam, we are going to stop material work, which is all the endeavors for maintenance, to maintain ourselves in this world. This is what material work is about. There is the endeavor to maintain, and plus on top of it, there is the endeavor to enjoy. There are two things in this world. One is just go by, maintain. It's a duty, it's a need. And then there is the plus, you want to enjoy also. So because you want to enjoy, then you work more. And where is the time for Krishna? And this is all based on a lack of understanding, a lack of faith. But Krishna explains that there is a different arrangement for those who are serving Krishna. For them, there is a different arrangement. They also work. They're so busy. They work very hard, but they don't work for maintenance. They work for Krishna. They dedicate their life to Krishna. And what does Krishna do in return? He supplies all their necessities of life. Not in the sense that they can enjoy lavishly, but whatever they need, they will get. Whatever they need in their personal life to exist, to survive, and whatever they need for their service, Krishna will supply. So there is a connection. If we can find that connection by which Krishna will supply, Krishna will supply everything. But not that we go to him with external, artificial dedication in order to get. No. This connection will apply when we actually genuinely serve Krishna and dedicate ourselves. So he will give us everything we need, and not just everything we need, but he will give us protection also, which is most important. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami. I will deliver you from the reactions to all your sins. And that includes not just the sins that we may have performed in the past, but it also involves that when we dedicate our lives to Krishna, sometimes there may be accidents. So there are accidents, Prabhupada said, even on the royal road. So there may be accidents sometimes that we see some devotees are misbehaving or so-called falling down, having some difficulties, doing something little outrageous. But Krishna explains, Apiched Suduracharo Bhajate Nam Ananyabhak. For one who continues to be dedicated to me, for one who has dedicated his life, accidents will be taken care of. Krishna will rectify us from within the core of our heart, and he will take care of the reactions. So when we know that there is such protection from Krishna and that he will take care of us in all ways, then where is the fear? Why fear? It is only the fear that stops us from dedicating ourselves to Krishna. And the fear, of course, we know where it comes from. It comes from the identification with this material body. It comes from being lost in dualities. We need to elevate ourselves to the spiritual platform. And this is done through the same means. It is done through sadhana. The more we chant, the more we hear, the more our intelligence will learn how to separate matter from spirit. And the more we will be able to identify as a servant of Krishna, and we'll become fearless because our conviction that we are eternal, that we shall never die, that conviction will grow. And as it grows, then we won't worry anymore about the maintenance of this body. We worry about the maintenance of the body because we are identified with this body and because we are afraid of death. So by practicing sadhana, this fear of death goes away. Then we are free. We are free. Srila Prabhupada says that dedicating oneself to Krishna's service without reservation, choosing the top level, pranaya, dedicating one's self to Krishna, it is a form of gambling. It is a gamble. Srila Prabhupada said, he's talking of the 4 regulative principles, and Prabhupada has a way to turn them into positive statements. And so when it comes to gambling, it says, do not gamble. But there is one form of gambling, because everything can be engaged in Krishna's service. So there is one form of gambling that you must engage in. What is that form of gambling? Prabhupada said, gamble your life for Krishna. He says, my disciples, they have gambled their life. What does it mean to gamble? It means that you put forward your money or whatever, you gamble, without knowing what the outcome will be. You take a risk. So dedication to Krishna is a risk we are taking. We do not know what the outcome will be. We do not know how Krishna will treat us. We do not know what he will do with us. We do not know what will be the result. We can know it by reading the Shastra. When we read the Shastra, we study, we see, oh, this is what happened to all these devotees. But Prabhupada said it is a gamble. We gamble our life for Krishna. Prabhupada says, all of my disciples, they were engaged in their own business. But I advised them to give up that business and take to this Krishna business. So they are gambling. They are gambling because they do not know what will happen. But they followed my instruction on faith. Okay, it is 8:26. So we have more to discuss on this topic, but we will stop now and take some questions or comments.
Mataji, can I ask a question?
Yes, who is this?
It's Yaji.
Yaji, okay.
So what is the process of finding our role in the Krishna conscious movement? Is it a very slow, gradual process with the help of our guru? Like, can you share some insights onto that?
Can you repeat the beginning? What is
the process of finding our role, our position in Krishna conscious movement? Is it like a slowly gradual process we do with the help of senior devotees and a guru? Like, can you give us some insight into that process?
Yes, it is a gradual process. It is a gradual process which begins with giving a little time. Dedication has a lot to do with the allocation of time. The allocation of time manifests our dedication. We dedicate ourselves to attaining Krishna. So in the beginning, it is just you start. You say, okay, let me try it, and then you give some time, and basically you chant. This is the very beginning. Vacha. You start giving your speaking power. You dedicate that, and you spend your time chanting. And because the holy name is a transcendental entity, there will be a transformation which is going to take place. All this transformation of somehow becoming more and more aware and convinced that one is not part of this world. So the more the faith grows, the more one will be ready to take further steps and further steps and further steps. So from simply chanting, one will search for the association of the devotees. And then one will want to engage in service. And then at some point, one will want to actually make a commitment. And this commitment is usually comes in the form of initiation. one takes initiation, which means that not just one chance whenever one thinks, whenever one wants, or whenever, but one actually makes a commitment that one will follow the sadhana regularly, and one will refrain from engaging in sinful activities. So that commitment, that is a further step in Krishna consciousness. And initially one may be, having made all these commitments to advancement in Krishna consciousness, and one may continue to maintain oneself in the material world and doing all kinds of works. But the idea is that as time progresses, if we are serious with our practices, material work should stop at some point. And gradually one should invest more and more and more and more time in working for Krishna. It can be home-based, meaning that one will start engaging, first of all, one will serve the deity at home. Instead of just having my house, one will dedicate the house to the home deity, and one will start worshiping the deity at home. And then one may start preaching, holding kirtans and discourses, and thus engaging what Prabhupada said, then the money has to be engaged in the service of Krishna. So that can be home-based, or some devotees go and serve in some established ISKCON center. They go and serve and spend time. Initially they give an hour, then they give 5 hours, then they give 10 hours, then they give 10 hours a day. So it will increase. Our level of dedication will increase. So in general, it is a gradual process, and it is as gradual as we want it to be. So it all depends on our faith. It depends a lot on our association. For some people, it's a long process. It takes many years to realize that actually I'm wasting my time. I should focus. Why should I focus? Well, time is passing. Death is coming. Am I ready? Have I pleased Krishna with my work? And have I fixed my mind? Have I dedicated my life to attaining Krishna or not? So it's a gradual progress, as gradual process, as gradual as we want to make it. And if somebody feels like this is urgency, I have to dedicate now, then that option is also there. Srila Prabhupada has opened so many centers all over the world where one can serve, and in one sense, even if home-based, one can completely switch from material activities to total engagement in the cultivation of Krishna consciousness for oneself and for others. Ambika?
Hare Krishna, thank you for this wonderful class. I wanted to ask about the practical arrangements and this dedication when devotees live at the temple, for example, for all their lives in different parts of the world. Then how about when they come to their old age? Is there like old people's, I mean, not old people's houses, but like last ashrams where their devotional life could be served and they could leave their body in a spiritual environment? Or how does this happen? Because, of course, wouldn't like to see, like, for example, older devotees here in this country ending up somewhere surrounded by meat eaters and no spiritual practice.
Yes, it is very much challenging in one sense when it comes to the managerial part of it. And our society has not always been very good at the management part of our society, has not always been very good at catering for the devotees' needs. But there are two ways to look at it. One fact is Prabhupada did indicate that the duty of the managers is to take care of the devotees. And so there has to be an endeavor from the part of those who are managing different centers and engaging devotees to help them with health issues, to help them with the part of life or difficulties of life. It is one of the duties of those who are leading various projects. And ISKCON as a whole has been a little slow in setting up facilities for that. There are certain activities in ISKCON which are part of the program that Prabhupada called boiling down the milk. And education, for example, this is what we are doing. Education is something which doesn't appear to be urgent. It's not part of the frontline preaching, but it is so essential. It's part of devotee care to educate them. So similarly, another area of back burner, in one sense, it is the establishment of ashrams, establishments of places where the elderly devotees can stay. And in some of our communities, it all depends who the leaders are. But in some communities, there are some arrangements, or there is something is building up. In Mayapur, we have seen there are some buildings which have been constructed simply to take care of the older brahmacharis who have dedicated their whole life. When they get too old, they have some specific buildings where they can live in a slightly more comfortable way because of the needs of their body. And they can serve just as much as they can. So it is going on. I would say it's, work in progress. But there is another aspect to it, as we said, is that Krishna, we should have faith that Krishna will take care. And something very important about care, whether it is old age care or illness care, all these things, is that, you see, Prabhupada told us that the Krishna consciousness is not practiced alone. It's meant to be practiced in the Sangha of the devotees. So if we maintain good relationships with devotees, if we serve the devotees, and if we have good relationships with them, we have connections, we establish connections, we establish relationships, then in time of needs, those people who are personally around us, they will take care of us. And this is what happens in the world in general. Who takes care of somebody is those who are in touch with that person. It's not an external body from somewhere. So one thing is we would like to see that the authorities of the institution actually have some sense of care and establish facilities and so on. And it is a must, and it is very much desirable and happening in some places. But we should not neglect also that the degree of care that we will receive also depends on the relationships that we have built in this lifetime. So these are two aspects of the care, I would say. ISKCON did establish, the GBC did establish some kind of devotee care wing that has been active in at least communicating. They actually created some seminars which you could take if you wish. There are courses in devotee care. I think there are 2 levels of courses in devotee care, which are very helpful to understand how to personally feel secure and how to care for others. And care is something that we receive and it's something that we give. And if we care for others, there is a good chance they will care for us. Is that okay, Ambika?
Yes, thank you very much.
Advaita Krishna Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much for this wonderful shower of nectar. It was very refreshing. It also reminded us why we joined, but I would like to, get some extra input from you on midway. Sometimes we get lost. We get lost in the sense that that sense of belonging, that sense of dedication, that sense of, awe and respect and everything that we have in the very early days, sometimes it gets a little bit diluted. Could you comment on why this happens?
Okay. I think it happens because the initial dedication is maybe, there is something which is called, it is coined by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Utsahamayi, the beginning of spiritual life, in which we are over enthusiastic. And it is not a bad thing, it is a good thing. But first of all, we experience the contrast between material life and spiritual life. When you have no spiritual life and suddenly spiritual life enters your life, it's such a black and white, and it's such a wonderful thing that naturally you have a tendency to really be very over enthusiastic for the spiritual aspect of life, because it is such a relief. It's so enjoyable, and bliss-giving, and it's so hope-giving, and it's so everything that we dedicate ourselves very easily, and we become attracted. But well, I think that what needs to be done is to go deeper in our dedication. The dedication has to be grounded in knowledge. It has to be grounded in devotion. It has to be grounded in our sadhana. So we have to cross over that phase. And it corresponds to the anartha nivritti, that we, in the beginning, when we come, somehow Krishna showers a lot of mercy. And then we start practicing, and then we hit the blocks of our conditioning. We start hitting the obstacles, the blocks, the whole conditioning. So we discover, we chant Hare Krishna in the hope of seeing Krishna, but the first thing we see is not Krishna. The first thing we see is the curtain between us and Krishna. And when we start seeing the curtain between us and Krishna, because we become introspective, because we start looking within, then sometimes it's a bit frightening. And but we should know that it's only a curtain, and we have to get through. We have to get through that curtain. So we have to keep the dedication going, and the dedication has to be basically to the sadhana. Many people lose their enthusiasm or their dedication because the sadhana is not very strong. And by strong sadhana, we don't always mean that everybody, they are every day in Mangalarti or something, but that dedication has to be there when you chant. So the chanting has to be concentrated. It has to be very serious, very sincere, very prayerful. So this is the area where we have to work. We also get diverted because when we first join, we see everybody as a saint. We see everybody as a wonderful devotee. We see everybody as a senior devotee. But then as the years go by and we mingle with the people, we see them in various situations. We see their weaknesses. Sometimes we see them committing mistakes. And then our neophyte mind, starts finding faults. Our neophyte mind starts not understanding what's going on and losing faith that if this is happening to such advanced so-called devotees, then what can happen to me? So many things like this happen. And so the secret of all is association. The secret is to find the association. And as we are supposed to find the spiritual master, we need to find the spiritual master is actually written in plural in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We don't just find the spiritual master, we have to find a community of devotees. And it doesn't mean they're all in one place, but it means you have to have some connections. You have to connect with some people that you're going to grow together with. And that you can, share also. Many times we lose our dedication or because we get bewildered. And then we keep it for ourselves. But one of the process for growing is called Guhyamakyati Prichati, which we have to open our mind and we have to reveal our mind and we have to be ready to listen to others and help them, and we have to be able to take help from others. But usually, if one is dedicated to the sadhana, the dedication will continue. But you see, dedication, there are like internal parts and external parts. Like initially, you may be dedicated to a specific project, to a specific thing, but you have to learn to be dedicated to Krishna, to be dedicated to the mission, to be dedicated a bit deeper. Because any project is an external manifestation of the mission. So it's not directly to that specific project that you need to be dedicated to, although you must, but it is to the mission that this project is carrying. You have to be dedicated to that. We have to be rooted in knowledge. That's what Prabhupada said, that reading his books is not an option. This is what will keep us dedicated. Because when we keep reading Prabhupada's books, we get that sense of mission. And then we feel inspired to serve. And ultimately, even there's a saying, Bhakti-vedanta Sarvajit Thakur, that if a brahmachari, brahmachari initially joins a temple, and if he stays in that temple for more than 3 years, it means that he's not growing. Because the idea of the Prabhupada said we have to create independently thoughtful people. This should be the aim of the training. And we're not creating some sheep or some people who are constantly going to be doing the same thing or serving in the same place. No, we should create leaders. So as we grow in Krishna consciousness after some years, If we feel that we cannot dedicate here, we cannot dedicate there, but still we are dedicated, means you have to take leadership. You have to take leadership. You have to serve Krishna in a way that you are self-motivated. That's what a leader is. A leader is self-motivated. Doesn't depend on the environment, whether there are politics or no politics, or there is this or there is that. One becomes a self-motivated person. And then you can lead. And then when you start leading, then you will understand how difficult it was for those who were leading you before. And you will understand their mistakes, you will understand their weaknesses, you will understand them by becoming a leader yourself. And as you do that, your grudges, your negative feelings will go away. And your full enthusiasm for Krishna consciousness will return. Is that okay, Advaita Krishna Prabhu?
Yes, Mother. Very nice. Thank you. So much food for thought and going deeper and deeper. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari. Nilamani Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, and with pronouns.
Hare Krishna.
And not so much a question, maybe a little bit of a comment. I was just reflecting as you were speaking on sometimes, in our journey in Krishna consciousness, as we do dedicate more of our time, more of our lives to in one way or the other serve the mission of Prabhupada, mission of Krishna consciousness, sometimes it becomes extremely painful because somehow we get let down, or we experience incidents and events which really shakes our faith so much to say, how can this possibly happen in Prabhupada's movement, in the house that he built for all of us, that devotees cannot work together, and they get to the point where communities get split apart and so forth. And at that time, our faith and dedication really gets tested and trusted. So to overcome that, I just wanted to reflect on some of the things you were saying, where the need for the strong sadhana has to be so much there, together with a support structure of devotees, maybe not even in your community, outside your community, people that you can talk to and discuss. So I was just thinking how much truth there is in some of the things you said, and we experience it. And sometimes you ask yourself, why does Krishna do this to his dedicated devotees who are genuinely trying to serve him in some capacity? And I'm not sure I have a good answer, other than Krishna is just testing and working to make our dedication even more stronger and firmer, and seeing really how committed we really are. So, but thank you for a wonderful class.
Hare Krishna, Nilamani Prabhu. Yes, thank you for the comment. Yes, sometimes it's very bewildering. Sometimes it's very bewildering. But yes, we have to always see that Krishna has a bigger vision than us. He sees, he's sitting in the top there and he sees everything. And we are little ants, and, we don't understand. We don't understand. But in general, yes, we need a lot of variety. That's one thing. We need a lot of variety, and we need distance. We cannot all live together. We are not all the same. So sometimes, but we are all doing the same thing. But sometimes the distance is required. and the acceptance. Srila Prabhupada spoke of unity in diversity. It's a great topic. So in unity in diversity means that we are all together, but due to the diversity, in a sense, we are all one, and we are all doing the same thing. But at the same time, we may have to not all live together, which is okay. Why not? There are so many different opinions nowadays regarding how things should be. So, but the opinions are actually due to the various levels of consciousness that the people are at. So depending on our level of advancement, we see things in a different way. And we are convinced about it usually. We are convinced about our own point of view. So sadhana is the base, chanting Hare Krishna is the base, reading Prabhupada's books is the base. Yes. Thank you for your comment, Nilamani.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So let me see there. I see two more hands. One is Ratnam. Do you have a hand up, Ratnam?
No, Mataji. No,
Oh,
Mataji.
then-
It was a very nice class. Very, very interesting.
Okay, sorry, I missed. Okay, who is that? Nilamani. Oh, Hemanga Chaitanya Prabhu has a hand up.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
Dandavat Pranam.
Krishna.
I'm Pastor Kumar Papat. Thank you, Mataji, for an inspiring class. It is with great pride I wanted to express my appreciation towards you. I always wondered.
We are not
What?
seeing you, Prabhu. Is that voluntary or accidental?
Sorry, Mataji.
Thank
It's
you.
too early in the morning. I said, Mataji, it's a great honor to be attending your classes, because I've heard about when you surrender, what kind of a personality you turn out to become. And you're a great inspiration and example for this. Your topics, your messages, your point of views are so deep and they're so profound that I can imagine what Srimad Bhagavatam's depth would be. A devotee like yourself, who's so simple and so well realized, it's really an honor for me to be in this class. I don't know if I can accomplish what I set out to, but each day it becomes a little more difficult, and I keep thinking, what am I into? Just hear your message, you hear your realizations through the different answers you share with us. It's truly an honor, Mataji. Thank you for your dedication and showing us when Prabhupada said you just need to chant and be happy, what that really meant. If I could ask one question as well. You mentioned two things about the brahmachari being in the movement for 3 years. Then he should be thinking about moving. Is that correct when I heard that? And yeah, I'll stop there, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, nothing should ever be taken exactly that, Prabhu, you've got 3 years. Yesterday was your anniversary. Tomorrow you're out. We should not take things like this. But what Bhakti-vedanta was indicating is that after 3 years, meaning what he meant is we should be creating leaders. And those who dedicate themselves to Krishna consciousness, not only they should, because if we do not take responsibility, he meant that we should take responsibility. And that's how we dedicate further, is that initially you just dedicate yourself, you join a temple, suppose, for those who do that. And everything is provided. And you just have to hear and chant and hear and chant and serve and hear and chant and serve. So the danger with this is that at some point it may just become a routine. And then you just become like, it's just a routine. And you end up kind of taking advantage of the place. Prabhupada said you eat, you sleep, and And then there is a tendency that the dedication, the enthusiasm which was there in the beginning may not stay. So instead of that, successful is the one who, learns and then gets the impetus to go and reproduce the same thing somewhere else. So that impetus to preach, that should come at some point, to take responsibility. Note that it doesn't mean sometimes moving out of the temple. It can be taking a responsibility in the same temple, but rising in devotional service. Not just keep doing the same thing all the time. But again, he said that just to minimize the fact that, to make sure that people don't just eat and sleep in the temple. They should take responsibility. They should take it in their hands. Not that they have to be fed all the time and somebody comes to knock at their door and they have to get them. The temple commander is always looking for them. Where are they? To do some service. And this happens when people stay in temples and do not take responsibility. They become a liability at some point. So that's not the aim. The aim is that we become enlivened, enthused with Krishna consciousness, and then we distribute it to others. We take some responsibility. And some people may, yes, after a number of years or whatever, having become trained, having some experience, just go and open another center, go and preach, do something else, become a leader. And then one will grow further. Whereas if you just remain apathic, one of the opposites of dedication is apathy. Instead of being active for Krishna, you just become apathic. People have to push you all the time. So that was the spirit of what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said. You should not sleep on your laurels. You should always move forward and take more responsibility for Krishna. Is that clear?
Yes, Mataji.
And thank you, Amanga Chaitanya Prabhu, for appreciating the association of the Bhakti-vaibhava. And we all going to be watching on you and make sure that you don't drop out, okay?
Thank you, Mataji.
All right, so I think we stop here. It is late already. What is happening? Yes. So we stop here. Hare Krishna, and we will see you on Friday. Hari Hari.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Very nice.
you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.